In this video, I'm going to share with you the do's and don'ts of RC math. Now, you've heard me say this probably a million times. The price of the Robinson curriculum is absolutely worth it, if nothing else, just for the course of study. And of course, we know that it comes with everything you need to educate your kids from K to 12, except for the Saxon math books. This is a gem. This is mandatory reading. However, that being said, I know as a busy mom of 6 myself and know what it's like having babies every other year and being sleep deprived and tired, that sometimes it's difficult to even just have time to sit down and carefully pore over something. So that's why I'm making this quick video guide, giving you the nuts and bolts, the do's and don'ts, so you can hit the ground running when it comes to this awesome curriculum. So I hope that it's helpful to you, and I don't know, let me know if maybe we should turn this into a series along with all the other components. But I think the bulk of the questions when it comes to the Robinson curriculum happen around math, so that's why we're starting here first. And make sure you stick around until the end of this video because I have some free, helpful printables and resources to go along with all of this. And at the risk of sounding like a cheesy YouTuber, if you do find this video helpful, then smash that like button below. All right, let's get started. All right, let's start from the beginning. Do start having your children memorize all of their math facts with the RC flashcard. They can start this around age 5, and typically it does vary from child to child and boys and girls, but usually by age maybe 6, 7, 8, they're ready to start Saxon 5-4. So just do have them memorize all these math facts prior to that. Now, don't help them memorize said math facts. Don't sit with them as they're doing this. This is something that they can and they should do on their own. Don't separate the math flashcards into the separate operations, only doing addition or only doing subtraction. Do mix them all up. Start with a few cards, the ones that add up to the smallest number, +0, +1, -0, -1, things like that. Use those first, start there first, and then gradually add harder flashcards and more flashcards so that the child is not overwhelmed. So start small, add more, but do not sit with them to do their math facts with them. Because I'm sorry to tell you, but helping them with their math facts fosters this sort of mental dependency that will become an impediment later on when they have to do math completely on their own. Do start them on Saxon 5-4 as their first textbook after they've memorized their math facts. Now, if it's a little bit too hard or overwhelming, it's okay. Start with half a lesson a day first. That's what Dr. Robinson recommends in the guide, and I have found it to be very true and helpful. When my kids start doing 5-4, they start with half a lesson a day until they can work up to a lesson a day. Now, if you're transitioning over and you have an older student and this is easy for them, then great. Let them do 1 to 2 lessons a day. Don't purchase Saxon 1, 2, or 3, which are completely unnecessary and will cause your children to be behind in math, as are the kids in public school. Speaking about textbooks, do purchase the following 9 Saxon textbooks. This is all you need. Saxon 5-4, 6-5, 7-6, 8-7, Algebra Half, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Advanced Mathematics, Calculus, and of course the corresponding answer keys. Don't purchase the Saxon Physics book because it does not contain calculus. RC has different books for those available with the curriculum. And for the record, don't let them skip Saxon 8-7. I know there are some different opinions out there, but how Dr. Robinson outlines it in the course of study, if a child follows this program how it is intended, starting with Saxon 5-4 as their first book, then they should be ready for calculus by the age of 14 with all those textbooks that I mentioned earlier. So if you skip one of those Saxon books like 8-7, then they're going to get to calculus a little too early. They need to be at least 14 to start calculus. So don't skip 8-7. Now here's another don't that I know can sometimes rub people the wrong way, but hear me out. Don't substitute the Saxon math books with any other math program. Now, here's the reason why. So if you are going to venture out there and pick a different math program, please at least follow the same methodology. You have to be sure that it is a program that can be used without a teacher, that they can sit down and it is explained in such a way that they can read it, understand it, and work the problems all on their own. It also has to contain sufficient review built in constantly to reinforce the concepts. And last but not least, it must include a high level of learning required to do actual science. And that is why this program sticks with Saxon Textbooks. And don't get mad at me for this, but don't use little fun educational online games or apps or anything like that that will kind of mold a child into thinking that learning should always be fun and engaging, because it's not going to be once they sit down and start doing Saxon 5-4 on their own. And here's a really important one. Don't teach anything else in this first year of formal academic learning. They need to work on memorizing their math facts, and they need to read. They need to practice lots of reading, because that's it. Once they start 5-4 and for the rest of their education, it's all going to rely on them reading, their comprehension. So at this point of the game, just focus on memorizing the math facts and being strong, independent readers. Now, as they're working along their Saxon textbooks, do slow them down if their error rate is above 5%. Ideally, you want it below that, around 3%. Better than having them do a whole lesson and having a whole bunch of errors and then you making them redo the lesson the next day. It's better if you slow them down to half a lesson a day and getting their error rate low before you move on and go back to a whole lesson a day. So do slow them down. And do use something like this, an error tracking sheet. And I do have a free printable for you, this right here. I'll link it down below. I also sell these as a book, kind of like a calendar, so you can have the whole year like this. It's super helpful, and kids learn to regulate themselves. My daughters know when their error rate starts to climb, they automatically know, I've got to go down to half a lesson. Once that error rate is around the pink line here, then they know they can go back to doing a whole lesson a day. This is so helpful. And very important here, don't help them. Each teaching action must be carefully evaluated to whether or not it's a positive or negative influence in the learning process. And you helping them, it's a negative influence in the learning process. They need to do it on their own. Now let's talk about when you're getting towards the end of the Saxon textbooks. Do follow the Saxon Calculus book with Chemical Principles, which is a textbook found with RC. Just try to remember it this way: math before physics, physics before chemistry, and chemistry before biology. Now, I can already hear some of you out there, but Karen, what if we transferred over at a later stage and there's no way my kid's gonna finish calculus by this age? All right, I got you. Here's the game plan that Dr. Robinson recommends. Since chemistry requires only algebra, it may be begun after the 3 Saxon algebra text and before advanced math and calculus. So after you finish algebra half, algebra 1, algebra 2, then you can go ahead and do chemistry. Do let them sit at their desk as long as they need to complete their half a lesson or a lesson, however many problems they're working on. I know this can seem kind of harsh, especially in certain homeschooling cultures, but trust me on this, this is where the magic happens, and they develop some really amazing study habits that will only serve them for the rest of their lives. So it might be a little tough at first, especially if you're transitioning over from something else where they're not required to sit down for a long period of time. And maybe they think they can manipulate you into doing something else. But hold firm here. Consistency is the key, and hang in there. It might take a few months, it might take 6 months, or it just might take a few weeks, but them seeing you be consistent on this and enforcing this, they will have no other choice but to just do it. And again, this is where the magic happens and those study habits are instilled in them. Don't let them manipulate you into doing something else, changing programs, etc. Now, obviously have realistic expectations for what your child at that age can do. I'm not talking about that. You know what they can do, what they're capable of. And you know that sometimes they just don't want to do it. It's not that they can't do it, it's that they just don't want to do it. And we live in a day and age where we're constantly getting dopamine from these instant gratification and, apps and phones and tablets, all of that. So it's going to take some work to kind of pull them back from that, to just sit at a desk and complete 15 or 30 problems all on their own. But do it, hang in there. It is so worth it. Don't let them use calculators. Again, this is just sort of a mental dependency, and you will see lots of engineers in the RC group say, don't do it, don't let them have calculators. There is one exception though, and that's when they're preparing for the PSAT, SAT, which now has problems that do require a calculator. This is pretty much the only time that the RC kids used a calculator. And just throwing it in there, the course of study also says don't let them have any screens, be on any computers until they're at least doing calculus. And he's not saying this to make you feel guilty or just spoil your fun. There's a reason for this. A child is really mature once they get to that age where they're doing calculus, and then they can use these tools such as the internet and computers in a way that's not going to cause harm to themselves. And that's a whole other video we can do another day. Do complete the math component, the Saxon math, 6 days a week. Don't just do 5 days a week. And I know that's another one that parents can kind of be like, and may ask, is 5 days enough? Well, here's a couple things you have to consider. Really, when you take 2 days off and then go back to doing math, it's like you're taking 3 days off, because it just takes time to get back into the groove of things, right? This is why we always hate Mondays, right? And people, if you track their internet usage, Monday is a time where a lot of people who should be working are spending online, right? They're just kind of getting back into the groove of things. So same thing with kids. If you're taking 2 days off, mentally, it's like you're taking 3 days off. And also, when you're talking about developing the synapses and the connections and the capabilities of your child's only brain that they will have in this life, and how that will shape their experiences and their entire lives, really, how much is enough? You're trying to advance them at this stage as much as possible for that long-lasting impact. So keep that in mind. I know we Americans are just very busy, go, 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 and sports is a big part of the culture, and kids' sports are very demanding when it comes to family schedules and things like that. But really, how long does it take to complete half a lesson or one lesson of Saxon math? They can get up early and they can complete their math work and then go about their whole day. There's plenty of time in the day. And you shouldn't feel this kind of resistance to it because you're not teaching it. So this is not taking up your Saturday. All right, we did it. We went through all the do's and don'ts. Did I ruffle your feathers? Did I make you mad? Let me know in the comments below. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting what the course of study says, the do's and don'ts. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button so I know. And again, maybe we'll turn this into a series. Now, I mentioned some resources for you. I have a free 13-part video course all about the Robinson curriculum from A to Z. So if you'd like to check that out, the link is in the description. I have this free printable for you that you can use for them to track their errors. Again, this is a game changer. It's so helpful. You can purchase my book that has this, or you can just get this download in the description below. And I also didn't mention it in this video, but I do have a Saxon math answer book like this that is broken up with the 30 spaces for problems. It has the graph paper here. Very easy for kids to be organized with their work. This is Genesis. She's 8 years old. She's doing 5-4. And so it just, again, helps them to be neat, helps them to be able to correct themselves really easily because they see where all the answers are in the problems. So this is another game changer that can cut down on careless errors, computational errors, and just frustration in general. All right, thank you so much for watching. Check out those links in the description, and I will see you soon. Bye.